Are we done?
So are they all going?
Glory to the Lord.
This is an interview we're doing with a good friend of mine that I've known for probably, 30 years that we've known you and your family.
Yes.
And I know that Michael Jones has a great testimony, and we thought we'd bring him on today and just have him share his life story with us. Michael, why don't you just start from the beginning?
Well, I'm honored by this, and I'm thanking you guys for this opportunity. And with the Lord, I say, Lord, bless this time for your glory. Yeah, there is a story here. There is a testimony, and we all have one. This one's about me. An impossible story, but the Bible says, to him who believes all things are possible.
Tell us where you were born and...
Columbus, Ohio.
Oh,
my dad was in
wow.
the Air Force. My grandpa was a whiskey drinking fighting man. He used to love to fight. He fought some of the famous boxers, Jack Dempsey. When he'd come home drunk, usually was singing, but he wasn't done fighting yet. And so he'd wake up all of his boys and fight them.
Oh my goodness, really? So you were born in Ohio?
Well, my dad had finally had enough and knocked my grandpa down, his dad down. And he ran away from home and joined the Air Force. So that's how I got born in Ohio. Both of my parents were born in Kalispell.
Oh, okay.
And one side was very wealthy. The other side was a bunch of crazy people from Indiana, actually. I have one brother and one sister, and that are true blood, not half or anything, not step. And but I never really got to know them very well. We got separated pretty young. They went to live with my mom, and I went to be with my dad. Wasn't very long. So over the years, we've gotten to know each other a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a lot of half brothers and sisters, all that kind of stuff.
So you were saying your dad was a drinking, fighting man. He'd come home singing, but he wasn't done fighting. And
that was my grandpa. That was his dad.
His dad.
His dad.
Okay.
So, and the way I understand it was, my dad was a hellion to the bone. He was just a hellion, and somehow he married this rich girl in town in Kalispell, and then I came by, and I guess there was a rape involved. How I came by, and which seemed to neither party wanted me. My mom divorced my dad. She took my brother and sister.
But she didn't take you.
She did, to Coeur d'Alene, but I left there. I tried to kill my stepdad. I tried to stab him with a knife. And so they called up my dad from Kalispell, and my dad and my cousin Jim, who just got home from Vietnam, and he's all messed up. They came and got me in Coeur d'Alene.
How old were you at that time?
I think about 8. Maybe
8.
Maybe
wow.
About 10. Dad was a very violent person, and him and my cousin Jim came to Coeur d'Alene and got me. And back then, Coors beer wasn't legal in Montana. They didn't sell Coors beer here. And so they loaded up the back seat completely full, cases and cases of Coors. And we started driving back to Columbia Falls. And I don't remember, I passed out before we got here. We were all 3 drinking on the way here. And
how old were you at that time?
I was like, I think 10.
Oh, wow, that was young.
And well, my aunts say that running around in diapers, I was falling down drunk all the time. And
who would be giving you stuff?
Well, my dad was so ornery that he would draw blood on people all the time, and he would. There were 2 bars in Kalispell that would let me drink with him as a child in the bar.
You are kidding. Wow.
So there was never any rules. The only rule that he had about alcohol was, if you embarrass me with it, and that was the only rule.
Wow.
So
you grew up in an environment of alcohol and continuous
abuse
and trauma. Is that how you would describe?
Yeah. He was famous. He would always have my fingers bending them back, watching my face, or bending my wrist, or bending Indian burns. They're always something, always causing pain. And if it was a bad day, I would be bleeding or picking myself up off the ground. So I know it was before 12 all this stuff happened, because I left home when I was 12. But he would knock me, he'd come right up and knock me right off my feet, and I would be on the ground bleeding, and he's screaming at me, get up, fight like a man, get up. So I have to get up. He was always saying, good for you, little son of a bitch, it'll make you tough. Always saying that. So, and I eventually shut the tears off. And one day he had me by my hair, and he shoving my face in the gravel. My mouth was full of gravel, and he said it again. I made a vow right there in my mouth full of gravel. I said, okay, that's what you want. You will never hear another story like mine. So, from that day on, I tortured myself. From that day on, I swam across Flathead River. Ice floes coming down, I'd be watching the ice, big chunks of ice coming down the river. I'd swim around them and run back to the house. I'd sit out in the snow naked, below zero, just meditating. I would not let anything touch me. Nothing touched me. I started touching myself with fire, torturing myself with fire, stabbing it just became, I couldn't feel anything anymore. This kid in school showed me about sniffing gasoline up your nose, snorting gas up your nose. And I did it, and you hallucinate, and you're like, anyway, for 3 years, I sniffed gasoline up my nose daily and continuously over and over again. And I would pass out on the ground, and I would get up, and there's a gas can. Have gas all over me sometimes. I'd get up and I'd do it again. And I knew something was going wrong up here. I knew that I was going to a place where I was not going to come back, and I didn't care. And so I kept sniffing this gas. So by the time I was 15, I couldn't read or write. I couldn't communicate with people. I couldn't tell when I had to go to the bathroom. I couldn't feel it coming. And so, like I said, I was born into a family of loggers, and a lot of logging years I spent out in the woods. I didn't come to town except to get more booze, drugs, tear up the town. But I became, I suppose, non-human in a way. Everybody called me Neanderthal, things like that. Some people called me two at a time, because I would drink twice as fast as everyone else. When a round was being bought in a bar, they always had to buy me two, because my name was two at a time. And I could do things twice as strong as anybody else. I could do twice as many push-ups in one arm as most people could do in one. I could pick up the smart back end of a truck. It was all adrenaline. It was all anger. It was all screaming, trying to communicate something, but not knowing how. So, there's a lot of history here, and some of it gets me pretty wound up to talk about it, remember it, but
so you said you left home at 12.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe expound on that just a little bit, and then you went into logging. But so what did something definitive happen? 12 is a really young age to
leave
be
home.
Be on your own.
So how did that happen? How did you leave home? I mean, a 12-year-old.
Did it just get so bad that you just walked out? Gotcha.
Did you have a place to go? Did you just walk out?
The first time I almost shot him with his own gun. The second time, it was only a miracle that I didn't pull the trigger on him. And
was this the guy? This was not your real dad. Was he the one? Was it your dad?
My dad.
Oh, your dad, the one that would push you into the gravel.
Yeah.
And hurt you, pull your fingers back.
Yeah.
So you had just tremendous trauma at such a young age when you're still developing.
A lot of times he'd walk up and kick you in the shins. He kicked people in the shins for some reason. And you would stand there and feel the blood running down your boot. And I remember several times he'd done that, and he'd peel the skin up on my shin to the point where it wasn't going to heal back if you pressed it down. You just had to cut it off with a knife. I remember him laughing all the time. I get thrown in jail. He'd come down there to say, I hope you rot in there. One day he came in the room, probably drunk, I don't know. I was sitting on a couch, and he came in the room and grabbed all those yellow darts out of this dartboard across the room. And he came at me, and the first one hit me right in the chest. And I ran out the door, and 2 more hit me. And in the back, and 1 in the leg. And laughing, mocking. And I just wanted to kill him. And I almost did, with his own gun. And I know it was God that stopped me, because all I wanted was just see him die. And it was just continuous. And what he did to my mom, what he did to the second wife was, you should have went to prison. Anyway, there was some neighbors down the road, an old mountain man named Jim Keys. He was from Columbus, Ohio, of all places. He had a son that was about my age, and Mike was damaged like me. We came together, me and Mike, backing up a little bit. When I left home, I stayed in a shed that they had. They were storing hay in it.
And how old were you?
I was 12.
Oh my goodness, I cannot imagine my son living by himself in a hay barn.
I had 3 dogs. Jim is this old mountain man. He hardly ever spoke. Big guy, big beard. I could tell that he didn't mind me being around. And he let people know he didn't want them around, but for some reason he didn't mind me being around. And so I slept in their shed. And I would go back and forth to town, hitchhike 12 miles. I would end up sleeping in another barn, a real barn. And it was better than their barn. So I slept a lot of that first winter in the Sardis barn. It's not far from where we get our milk for the store. Well, I was still snorting this gas. I was breaking in people's houses for alcohol. Now, being tangled up with Mike, we got onto hard drugs. And so there wasn't anything in Kalispell we wouldn't steal to support our habits. And we had connections. We could get anything we wanted at any time. We used to eat SD like candy. Mike was an expert at building up hot rods. He could build up hot rods. We was always going 150 miles an hour. But Joe that owns Fort Wrecking down here, his brothers in Kalispell was the ones where we got all of our parts. Okay. And they were a bunch of aliens too, a bunch of party animals. So we was always building up these hot rods. What I'm saying all this for, we were hardcore. We didn't go anywhere without a 16-gallon keg in the back seat. Always had a 16-gallon keg in the back seat and eating acid like candy. And I remember me and Mike and one other guy, Doug, we would sit down, we would eat acid out of our minds. But all 3 of us we would sit down and drink 16-gallon keg of beer by ourselves on acid. And you can do that. You can stay awake for days at a time, stay completely wide awake for a week. Yeah, on acid. The things that we did, Mike was very angry too. Mike was out of his mind. When he was a little kid, him and his brother went down to the river and only one of them came back. And his little brother died. And Mike never stopped punishing himself his whole life for that. Right after that, he was handling his dad's gun. And it dropped out of his hands and blew his mom's foot right off. Another traumatic experience, one right after another in Mike's life, made him a little crazy and out of his mind. And both of us together, we were not right together. We shouldn't have been together. We tore up the town, Kalispell. There wasn't anything we wouldn't try. And we didn't care if we went to jail. We didn't care if anybody got hurt. We didn't care if we got hurt. We belonged to a family of witches. I haven't seen my mom in 5 years. It's a hard place to go. Everywhere I look, there's car wrecks. Everywhere I look, there's blood. Everywhere I look, there's violence. Everywhere I look, there's memories. Those years were unbelievable. And I had a death wish. And everybody knew it. Everybody was just waiting for me to die. just waiting for a phone call to say we found him. He's dead now. A lot of people would come up. Sometimes they didn't see me for a while and they say, I thought you were dead. I thought you were dead. I still get that. So I got to say this, in the darkest, deepest parts of all this, hell, we were not having fun at all. We were unleashing hell within our own souls upon the world. Anger. We didn't know what to do with it. We just threw it out at everybody around us. But no matter how deep of a valley that we got ourselves into, there was love there. And in my life, he was always there. I have so many stories, so much darkness, and he was there. He was there, just like he is here now. It's the reason I can speak. It's the reason I have a mind to put together a sentence. It's the reason I have something to live for. And I want to make this real to people in such a way to whoever you are sitting there listening. Hope. Hope. How many times I wanted to give up. How many times I created my own death. Shooting up air bubbles. Shooting up alcohol and needles. Shooting up the air bubbles. Because they're just too hard to get out. Sitting there waiting to die. How many times? But the Lord said, no. No. I've got a plan. I've got a plan. No matter the circumstance, hang on. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. No matter what, you call upon his name. The only reason I'm here, because I called upon his name every time. He's a very present help in a day of trouble, and I'm proof. And you probably already are proof too, because he's with you right now. He's been with you. He knit you together in your mother's womb. Knit you together, stitch by stitch. If I could bring down a prayer on everybody, Lord, give us a revelation. Give us a revelation. Let us see it all how you see it. Let us see our own life how you see it, how precious it is to you. Lord, let there be communication here. Love. Communication that reaches out and it goes into the heart like well-driven nails because it's placed there with the truth. Truth. There isn't one soul listening. There isn't one soul on this planet that isn't needy. That isn't needy. We all have a place here that needs to be filled, and we're all trying to fill it with something. There's only one thing that fits. And I say this. You go ahead and try everything, because nothing will fit until you call upon his name. Until you call upon his name with all your heart. Every time I found my place flat on the ground, waiting to die, he spoke to me. He touched me. He lifted up my face and I spoke it out again, his name. And all of a sudden I'm standing on my feet. I don't even know how. Again and again and again. How many times the devil knock you down and the Lord says, no. Come. There was a little lady in Kalispell that wasn't afraid of me. And most people was, and I wanted them to be. I was a wild man. I hardly ever took a bath, hardly ever cut my hair. Wore buckskin clothes, wore a big Bowie knife on my hip all the time. Everything said about me said, stay away. Okay. And everybody knew it. This one little lady, half my size, she wasn't intimidated by me one single bit. She'd come up to me with this little book, and she started telling me. And I couldn't understand everything but I knew it was a Bible she had in her hand. I couldn't understand everything she told me, but she didn't make a wide circle to get around me. She always made a beeline toward me. And she had to tell me about Jesus. One day I took a 30-30 rifle down to her church and shot all the windows out of her church. Stillwater Lutheran Church. And I thought, well, the FBI was after us for a number of things and always in trouble with the cops and always being pursued and hounded, whatever not. I figured I'd probably go to jail for this. And so I was kind of expecting it. I didn't care. And they bought me an airline ticket and sent me to the ghettos of Los Angeles. And right in the heart of the ghettos. And they might as well have sent me to Mars. I had no idea what a big city was, and now they're sending me to the worst part of the worst one. And so I got in, they picked me up at the airport, drove me into the ghettos. There was a big house in the ghettos for about 15 of us, people like me. And right across the street was a big house for the counselors that where they lived. All 15 of us got touched by fire. All 15 of us, for the first time in our lives, we got to be kids. All 15 of us were touched. It was a miracle. When I got there, I couldn't sleep in the house. And they didn't make me sleep in the house. I slept out in the backyard underneath these palm trees in the corner of a giant fence that was 10 feet tall, brick fence. And I dug a hole back there under those trees, and that's where I stayed for near a month. And they would have out there sleeping with me in the yard, somebody on a cot, and they would bring me food and stuff. This is before I got saved. And finally, little by little, I started getting closer and closer to the house. And I could hear singing in there. And they were having worship during the day. And so I get closer and closer to the house and I'm wandering around the backyard. And I finally got in the house. And I went down the hall and I could see them in there singing. Finally, I was getting in the van with them to go places. And we drove all the way across the city to this huge church. It must have been 1,000 people in there. And I took my place against the back wall, watching the people come in. And I still couldn't understand what was going on. My brain wasn't fixed yet. This happened on October 3rd, 1981. And I can almost tell you what time of day. Exactly. When a lightning bolt hit me and a dead man stood on his feet. I had a photographic mind, just like that. The people in Teen Challenge were so shocked at how fast I changed. All my diseases were healed. I was going to the hospital for all these things. They called me back 3 other times and says, we don't know what happened. And all of a sudden I can read, I can write, I'm living, I'm alive, everything is brand new. And so now they're putting me up in front of all these big churches. And they introduce us as Teen Challenge guys. And when this guy comes up, and you guys open up your Bibles when he gets up on this stage. And the first chapter you turn to, you see if he misses one word. Right now he's got 8 chapters memorized word for word, and he doesn't miss a word. So I would quote these 8 chapters from church to church, and then it was 10 chapters. I was going to memorize the whole book of James, and I got halfway through. And I came to a place, and I was really having a problem with this PTSD and the city and all this stuff. And I raised my finger to God, and I told him this. I says, I don't want this. I don't want this. I knew he was listening. This is what I said, and I must have had help from the Holy Spirit to say these words. I told him this. This is what I want instead. Rather than to have this whole book memorized and squawking it out like a parrot everywhere I go, I'd rather have one verse of it living in my heart. A ton of feathers hit me on the spot. Holy Ghost was pleased, and I saw this vision of one seed falling into the ground, coming back up as 100, and 100 going back in, and coming up as 1,000. One seed planted a whole field. One basket got my daughter in the governor's house. One speech. Lord only needs one of everything. Doesn't need two of anything. So, Lord, with all of our heart, teach us how to lay down at your feet, cast upon you what's not ours anyway. Lord, take it and do what you want with it. Multiply it 10,000 times over if you want to. Just do what you're going to do for your glory. None here. I'm just here to learn. That's it.
Wow. Did you find the Lord there? You found Jesus.
Oh.
Wow. And that was your turning point. Wow.
I'm telling you, a dead man stood on his feet and walked. There was no hope.
You
with no hope.
You couldn't read before that, and after that you could read. That is wow.
My brain wouldn't let me do a lot, and when I sniffed all that gasoline up my nose, but I did it for 3 years. By the time I was 15, I was already a burnout junkie. My brain was fried. By the time I was 15, and then I did hard years on drugs, hard years on alcohol, hard years on anything I could. After that, after my brain was fried, it just got worse and worse and worse. I couldn't tell what reality was anymore. Mm-hmm. And like I told you, I couldn't tell when I had to go to the bathroom. That's embarrassing. How do you live that way? Mm-hmm. You don't. So I lived in the gutter a lot of years, and in the woods, places. I lived in a tree in Washington for a whole year until people found me in there. In a big log. Lived in all different kind of places. But I was bound at my mom didn't know what to do with me when I was a kid, so she dropped me off everywhere. One of the places she dropped me off was the library in Kalispell. My aunt was in charge of it. She ran the library, one of my aunts. And my aunt knew that I loved mountain men and Indians. So she would have all these books ready for me when I would come. And this is before I lost the ability to read. And I thought the mountain men and Indians were the only people on earth that actually had a brain. I mean, everybody else, what are they doing? And I thought they were the only normal people. But I patterned myself after them. Robinson Crusoe, I lived alone on an island. He made a life on an island alone. That was me. My cousins my uncles coming home from Vietnam, they were out of their minds with PTSD. I was stuck with them. They gave me their survival training manuals. I turned those survival training manuals into a religion to the point of torturing myself to make sure it got done and got done right. And you say, most of the bugs on planet Earth are edible. I tested it. I tested everything. And that was my purpose for living for a long time. And I became twice as strong as people around me. And the Lord, as a brand new Christian, I came back to Kalispell. And my own dad, he was violent. He would throw, I would tell him about Jesus, and he couldn't get rid of me. And I'm telling you about Jesus. This is the way it is. I don't care. You're going to have to hear it. He would throw anything he could. Rocks, shovels, axes. He's violent. Telling me what to do with my religion. And I tell him, you know it's true. You know the condition I left, and now I can speak to you, and I'll tell you I got a lot to say. So, anyway, nobody knew what to do with me in Kalispell. Because I was literally the blind man who had been blind all of his life, never seen blue, never seen a human face, never seen anything. Can you imagine? And then all of a sudden, you can see? How do you shut that man up for the first 5 years after that? He's going to be a fanatic about everything. And that was me. That was me. And
wow.
So people I hung around with, I was death threats. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it. You leave Kalispell. You get out of here now. Your life is in danger. Well, that didn't bother me a bit because my life was always in danger. But I just went where the Lord took me after that. And I've been following ever since. And I don't have a plan. I guess I'm the leper who ran back. Because the other 10, we see them in society everywhere. The other 10 are everywhere. The other 9 are everywhere, I believe. We see them everywhere. But where's the one who ran back? What happened to him? Is he the one who falls at Jesus' feet and punches a hole through his own ear and says, Lord, where you go, I go. For the rest of my days, that's all I want to do is serve you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was dead and now I'm alive. Thank you. How could I not walk with you all the rest of my days? What happened to the leper who ran back? Where is he? But then is he the one the Lord calls the remnant? And when he speaks to the river, he just walks across it. We're going to have a cloudy day and it don't need to be. He just speaks to the weather. Elisha was no different than us, but yet he was. What made his walk a little different? The Lord says, if you approach me with all of your heart, circle the word all. If we learn that word all and approach him with all our heart, no backup plan, nothing of the sort, the door flies open. We're in the throne room. The pleasure of God, he cannot help himself. A jealous God is amazed. What happens when God stands up and gives a standing ovation? What happens when God is overjoyed with you? His cup of joy overflows. And guess who gets the overflow? To walk in the joy of the Lord all the days of your life? How is that possible, or is it? It is. So Lord, what can we do to please you today? What can we do to make your day today? Has anybody even asked you that today? This day's not over with yet. So I like to talk to him, and I like to treat him as though he's really there. And Lord, I'm just going to tell you the way it is, because that's what you do with me. And if you're not going to let me off the hook, I'm not letting you off the hook either. So it looks like we got some kind of a partnership or something going on here. You know, in the corral there, I had a great big ant pile. And it was an unusual place for ants to make an ant pile. And the Lord has always impressed upon me, go and study the ant. And I've preached this to many people, go and study the ant. Isn't it interesting that our God would tell us to go study a bug? And then he's got the gall in the same verse to call them a people. I say, Lord, what are you talking about here? These bugs, you want me to study these bugs and you're calling them a people? Kind of makes you wonder how you're looking at all of us little creatures here on this speck of earth. Lord, so go study the ant. I guess my message to people would be, we're all such in a hurry. Who's ever stayed there long enough to get the goods? Because that little kingdom there could teach you not only how to run a family, it could teach you how to run a country. Mm-hmm. There's wisdom there that we're too busy to see it, too busy to stay there and get the goods. But what about the leper who does have time? Mm-hmm. That one leper, that one person in the flock, that one fish swimming the other way. There was always one. Joseph was one. Changed a whole kingdom. I would wonder, some people in this end of days that we're in right now, before a judgment of fire will come to the earth, I would wonder, once again, God has marked a few people that will walk through fire again without the smell of smoke. In front of a judgment, he had an odd group of people doing something very odd. They're building a big boat. Now we got another judgment. This one's of fire. I would wonder if God would have a very odd group of people doing something very odd in front of another judgment. But maybe this would produce men who would walk through fire without the smell of smoke. Bold as a lion. Nothing can make them back up an inch. They are full of the Spirit of God. But I would say, Lord, fire the Holy Ghost on all of us. Touch us, Lord. Ignite our giftings into a flame of glory for you, Lord. As the darkness comes creeping in on the world more and more, faster and faster, Lord, grace abounds over that, right? Grace abounds over that, right? Let their giftings burst aflame, Lord, for your glory. Make us, Lord, instruments that will make the devil and hell tremble. Peoples of this world to know that they know that they know God is real. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Thank you.